I would like to acknowledge that this video is being filmed on the traditional lands of the Wurrung people of the Kulin Nation. I pay my respects to their elders past and present, and extend that respect to any Aboriginal, Torres Strait Islander or First Nations people who may be watching this video today. Hi everyone, my name is Steph, this is the Novelty Corner, and welcome to another recommendations video. This time we are talking about one of my all-time favourite tropes, which is actually an extension of the Grumpy Sunshine trope that I recommended most recently, so I'll leave that linked up on the screen. And this is the morality chain trope. Now, you might be wondering, what the heck is a morality chain? And does it only occur in romance? And the simple answer is, it doesn't just occur in romance, but this is where I fell in love with the trope. And the morality chain trope usually involves a character who has some kind of villainous tendencies. Quite often they can be portrayed as psychopaths or sociopaths, and it's their relationship with a significant other. Now, it is the significant other who is the morality chain, because they are the thing, the person that makes the other character want to do something good. Now, that can be big world good, or it could just be good for their morality chain, because quite often it is really fascinating to see how the character who has those tendencies that we wouldn't not necessarily consider acceptable for society, how they shift because of what their partner wants from them. So we are going to talk about some of the books that I have really enjoyed. Some of them are closer to favourites than others, but all of them are books that I did really enjoy. I would be entirely remiss if I didn't start this recommendation video with Heart of Obsidian by Nalini Singh. This is book 12 in the Side Changeling series. It is probably the only other entry point in the series that I would recommend aside from book 1. And even then, there are still going to be things from the series that possibly don't make all that much sense. But if you needed a place to start and you wanted to see what Nalini Singh can truly do in this series, this is a book that you could possibly pick up, particularly if you like this trope. The two main characters in this book are both Psy. So in this world we have Psy changelings and humans. The Psy are humans with psychic abilities, and essentially they are the ruling business people of the world. They really control a lot, and they're constantly butting heads with the changelings, and unfortunately the humans don't really have much of a chance in this world. But the hero of this book, Caleb, is the most powerful Psy in recent history. He is a dual cardinal, which means both of his main psychic talents are off the charts in terms of power capabilities, which doesn't happen very often. He is telepathic and telekinetic, and as such, he almost has unlimited power, and he can do things that no one else can do. He is a member of the Psy Ruling Council, and for most of the series, we really don't know what to think about him, because the Psy are generally painted as controlled and controlling, and they're very unfeeling because they've suppressed their emotions in order to not go mad from their psychic abilities. And so everyone has a very, very healthy wariness around Caleb. And in this book, we finally get his relationship, and it is with a woman he knew from childhood who disappeared, and her name is Sahara. Sahara is also a Psy. She is a member of the Night Star clan, and because of her particular psychic ability, which I won't reveal because it's a big part of the story, she was taken and held captive for the majority of her life, and she's essentially been tortured for the majority of this time, and Caleb has spent most of his adult life trying to find her. And when he finds her, he brings her back to his place, and he wants to protect her. Like, that's his driving force, is to keep her safe and to protect her and to make her his, because she is the only thing that he has ever really cared about. So she is his morality chain, and this is just such a fantastic, fantastic book. I absolutely adore it, and I love Caleb and Sahara's dynamic, because he is quite literally ready to burn the world down to the ground, and she's the only thing standing between Caleb and doing that. I adore this book. I adore the series, but this is one of my top 5 books in the series easily. Another book that came out last year that I was really interested in was Twisted Love by Anna Huang. So this is the first book in a series. This one is a best friend's sibling romance, as well as a morality chain. The hero in this story is Alex. He has things that have happened in his past that are really driving him in the present day, and he's very cold, he's very removed, he doesn't really engage emotionally with other people, and then his best friend asks him to watch over his younger sister Ava while he is away. So Alex ends up moving next door to Ava, and monitors her quite closely, to her chagrin. And Ava has had her own things happen to her in the past, which has prompted her brother to want someone to watch over her. And as the two spend more time together, Ava becomes really the only thing that Alex cares about. And the whole thing is just great. I mean, I love this series and I love what Anna Huang is doing with all of her characters, but this was a really great introduction to the series, and it's probably a good morality chain light intro if you wanted to dive into it and see if it's something that you would be interested in. So this is a really great place to jump in if you want to sort of dip your toes into morality chain. A book I'm currently rereading at the time of filming this is The Nightmare by Regine Abel. This is the second book in the Mistwalker series, but you can read it as a standalone. This is a paranormal romance. We are in a world that has been overtaken by the mist, and inside the mist, dreams and nightmares are born. So people can basically will their dreams and nightmares into being. And in this one we have Naima, who as a child, witnessing her parents' very chaotic relationship, basically willed a nightmare into being. And this nightmare has followed her the majority of her life and haunted her dreams and scared the pants off of her. Now her nightmare's name is Zane. And then after a really traumatic experience where her nightmare physically manifested in the mist that engulfed the world and killed her abusive partner on her behalf, she finally found ways to sort of block this connection to her nightmare. But that didn't mean that he ceased to exist. And in fact, Zane, her nightmare, continued to exist in the mist and got more and more furious as she continued to evade him. We flash forward into the future, and there is an organization that has been put together to monitor and eliminate any wishes and nightmares that escape into the world that need to be stopped. And there is a nightmare called Daryl, which I still can't get over that name, but Daryl has physically manifested in the human world. He is a nightmare, he is a serial killer, and they need to stop him. And in order to do that, they need the most powerful nightmares available to them in order to bring him down. And so Naima is recruited in order to recruit Zane. She is his only tether to humanity, because he would be quite happy to go off and siphon off energy. And because nightmares siphon energy off living things in order to grow stronger and to feed, he would be quite happy to go and do that. He threatens it many times once he sort of manifests in a physical body. The only reason he doesn't is because Naima doesn't like it. And when she doesn't like something, he doesn't like the feelings that he gets off of her. And he is determined to make her his mate, and in order to do that, he has to be willing to adopt some of the human traits that she needs him to in order to feel any kind of connection to him. So this is a really interesting series in terms of what it's doing with this idea of dreams or wishes and nightmares and things like that. But I'm thoroughly enjoying my reread of it. And it's another one that you could pick up if you really want that morality chain trope. Another one that I really enjoyed, but I don't have a physical copy of, is Run Posy Run by Kate C. Wells. This is a dark mafia romance, and we have Posy, who is the girlfriend of Dario, who is sort of the behind the scenes guy for the mafia. He's very, very powerful. He's a psychopath. He is very controlling, but Posy is comfortable with him because he's accepted her for who she is. He's not worried about the scandals of her past or who her parents were or anything like that. However, someone doctors an old sex tape of Posy and makes it look like it's current and sends it to Dario, and he immediately dismisses her and basically tells her to run because their relationship is done, without even giving her a chance to explain the situation. So she goes on the run, and then Dario almost immediately changes his mind, and then he gets to do the thing that he really enjoys doing. He gets to chase her. Once he catches her, he intends to keep her. And what we find out is that Posy is not an empty airhead, which is sort of the persona that she portrays to most people. And Dario knows that. He knows that she's very, very smart. He sees it through her disguise. While this is not one of those morality chain books where Dario suddenly becomes a good guy because he's with Posy, it's really about how his relationship with her changes because of her and because he almost loses her. So this is another one to dip your toes into if you like the dark romance, mafia romance books. Another paranormal or speculative fantasy romance book is the Hidden Legacies series by Lona Andrews, specifically the first 3 books beginning with Burn For Me. So in this one, we follow the Baylor family, and in the first 3 books, we follow Nevada, who is the oldest of the Baylor sisters, and she is like a detective, And she lives in a world where magic rules. So the more magic you have, the higher your status in society, and the people with the most magic are referred to as primes. And she is sent after a prime with fire magic, which is rare and really dangerous, who has gone off the rails. And it's her job to bring him in, and it's basically a suicide mission, but she and her family need the money, and they also need sort of the recognition that comes from her being able to complete this job. And along the way, she crosses paths with Mad Rogan, who is a prime and a very, very powerful one at that. And he ends up kidnapping her, basically because he thinks she's getting in his way. However, it turns out that they both need to work together in order to hunt down their prey. They're both tracking the same prime. We have a good study in contrast here, because Nevada is very, very close to her family. She has a very strong support network, whereas the same cannot be said for Mad Rogan or Connor, because his family has always been very focused on attaining power, attaining status, maintaining that. And so he doesn't have close ties with a lot of people. His ability to connect emotionally with other people is rather stunted. And he spent quite a bit of time in the equivalent of the military. So he's very highly trained. When he goes after something, he's singularly focused, and he won't stop until he gets what he needs to get done. So he's very singularly focused. It's not until he meets Nevada and has to work with her that he begins to feel a connection with someone else. This entire series is really, really fun. There's so many really cool things happening. The way that the magic works in this world is very different to the way I've seen in other paranormal, urban fantasy, speculative fantasy worlds. And the characters are honestly delightful. The banter is top notch. I mean, it's Alona Andrews. What can I say? And then the final book that I wanted to recommend in this video is Electric Idol by Katie Robert, which I didn't realize was a morality chain, and I was kind of flip-flopping on whether or not it actually truly was while I was reading it. But I'm going to say yes, it's morality chain light. So slightly more than the Grumpy Sunshine trope, probably a step down from something like Heart of Obsidian, in my opinion, which is not a reflection on the quality of the book, because I actually really, really adored this story. This is a Greek myth retelling series, but it's kind of more like, it reads a little bit more like a dark mafia romance, because the Greek gods in this world are living in a contemporary type world. They are the business leaders of this world, and there's no magic involved. So it's Katie Robert playing fast and loose with these characters and their mythologies and their histories and their relationships. So it's not supposed to be accurate. It's supposed to be the idea of the character being best fit for the role within this book universe. So be aware of that going into it. But Eros is the son of Aphrodite in this world. Aphrodite is one of the 12. So part of the upper ruling echelon of Olympus. Ever since he was a child, his mother basically raised him to be her fixer. So she was not overly affectionate. He doesn't really understand love and connection with other people in the same way that most people would, because she really raised him to eventually become a killer. And that's how she uses him. When someone offends or otherwise annoys Aphrodite, she sends Eros after them. And his job is to remove them. They're obstacles for his mother, and his job is to get rid of them. Now, there is a party in Olympus one night, and Psyche stumbles across him as he's returning from one of these missions, and she notices that he's injured, and she ends up tending to his wounds, despite the fact that she's just had her own run-in with his mother. And for the very first time, Eros begins to pay attention to Psyche. He's never really spent that much time with her, and he feels something. He doesn't quite get it, but he feels something. And then later on, Aphrodite tells Eros that she wants Psyche removed as punishment for transgressions done against her. It's the first time that Eros begins to question whether or not he can follow through on his mother's orders. And when finally coming face to face with Psyche again, he has to make that choice. This then devolves into a fake engagement in order to try and prevent what's happening from happening. But the really cool thing is the interplay between Psyche and Eros, because Psyche is a very smart woman. She's plus size. She wields social media as her weapon. She has an awareness and a healthy fear of what the powerful members of the 12 can do. She's the daughter of another of the 12. She's the daughter of Demeter. So she's not unaware of what can happen, but it's not what she wants from her life. And even though she's quite happy to stand up to people that she believes are bullies, she struggles with the fact that she's found herself in a situation where she's going to have to do something that was never on the cards for her. But the way this relationship develops and the way that we see Eros beginning to really develop as his own person as opposed to the thing that his mother made him is wonderful. And he became a character that I was really truly invested in. Content warnings in here for toxic parents, if you couldn't figure that out already. I probably didn't explain the book well enough. All right, so those are my morality chain recommendations. If you have any others, let me know down below, because I'm constantly looking for more books like this. I am definitely going to be paying attention to more of them throughout this year, and hopefully I will have a part 2 video sometime in the future. Who knows when that will be. If you want to let me know that you're here but you don't want to leave a comment, feel free to leave a chain emoji down below. Otherwise, I hope that wherever you're in the world, you're staying safe and healthy, and I will see you in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye everyone.